On August 26, 2025, the case that has gripped Riverside County and stunned California took a devastating turn. The Riverside County District Attorney's Office announced formal murder charges against Jake and Rebecca Haro, the parents of 7-month-old baby Emmanuel Haro. Both have also been charged with making a false police report. The arrests took place quietly in Cabazon, California, where the couple was taken into custody without incident. Each is now being held on $1 million bail, facing accusations that they not only failed to protect their child, but deliberately misled the world about what really happened to him. 7-month-old Emmanuel Haro wasn't just another missing child case. He was born with a disability that required round-the-clock care, constant monitoring, and regular doctor visits. Every appointment mattered. Every dose of medicine mattered. Every day that someone paid attention could have made the difference between life and death. But those days were slipping away. When Emmanuel was first reported missing in early July, the story sounded terrifying. A baby snatched from his home, parents pleading for help, law enforcement launching a search operation. Flyers went up, volunteers combed neighborhoods, and the community rallied behind a family that appeared desperate to find their son. But investigators were already noticing problems with the story. The timelines given by Jake and Rebecca Haro didn't match. There were gaps they couldn't explain. Doctors' records showed Emmanuel had missed critical medical appointments. Social workers documented earlier concerns about neglect. And neighbors reported seeing Emmanuel alive hours after the time his parents claimed he had disappeared.
What began as a suspected abduction quickly unraveled into something far more troubling. Surveillance footage placed the Haros in locations they denied visiting. Cell phone records contradicted their statements. Digital forensics uncovered deleted texts and internet searches that suggested an effort to hide something, not find someone. The so-called kidnapping was looking less like a crime by strangers and more like a staged cover story. Detectives quietly shifted their focus from searching for a missing child to building a homicide case. Behind closed doors, investigators gathered evidence piece by piece. They interviewed friends and family members, learning of household instability and parents who admitted feeling overwhelmed by Emmanuel's care needs. They reviewed hospital files that warned about the dangers of skipping treatment. They examined physical evidence seized from the Haro home and from locations the couple had visited. By late July, they were no longer asking, "Where is Emmanuel?" They were asking what happened to him and who is responsible. On August 26th, the case reached a breaking point. Prosecutors filed murder charges and accused Jake and Rebecca Haro of filing a false police report to mislead investigators and the public. Detectives arrested them in Cabazon, California, bringing an end to weeks of speculation and rumor. What had begun as a plea for help from grieving parents now stands accused of being a calculated deception to hide the death of their own child. The evidence prosecutors have outlined so far is stark. Emmanuel's medical neglect is now documented in court records. Investigators have cataloged contradictory statements and physical evidence they say proves Emmanuel's death wasn't an accident. Witnesses describe the baby as vulnerable, unable to move or cry without assistance. This was a child who could not feed himself, could not protect himself, could not even roll over without someone watching him. And yet, despite repeated warnings from medical professionals and community members, no decisive action was taken to remove him from danger.
The charges have shocked Riverside. People who passed out flyers and searched neighborhoods are now angry at being misled. Angry at a system that failed to protect a child who clearly needed help. Child welfare advocates are demanding answers. Why didn't authorities step in earlier when doctors raised alarms? Why did social service warnings fail to trigger emergency intervention? How many opportunities to save Emmanuel were missed? These are questions now echoing far beyond the walls of a courtroom. But prosecutors are pushing forward. They say this case will not fade quietly. They believe they can prove in court that Emmanuel's death was not an accident, not a misunderstanding, but an intentional crime followed by a calculated lie. The Haros now face a judge in Riverside County where a preliminary hearing will test the strength of the evidence. Witnesses will be called. Experts will describe Emmanuel's medical condition in detail, explaining how every skipped appointment and every missed medication placed his life at greater risk. Surveillance footage, phone records, and physical evidence will paint a timeline of Emmanuel's final hours. A timeline prosecutors say proves this wasn't a random tragedy, but a deliberate act. This case is bigger than just one family. It highlights cracks in a system designed to protect vulnerable children, but too often reacts after it's too late. Emmanuel Haro was only 7 months old, unable to speak, unable to ask for help, entirely dependent on those entrusted with his care. And now, prosecutors say, those very people took his life and then lied to cover it up. In the weeks ahead, more information will surface, more witnesses will speak, more evidence will be revealed. Jake and Rebecca Haro continued to insist Emmanuel was kidnapped, maintaining their innocence even as they sit behind bars. But prosecutors say they are ready to prove otherwise, ready to show the public how a child's death went unreported, how the people closest to him tried to shift the blame, and how a community was manipulated into believing a lie. For now, 2 parents await trial on murder charges. A baby is gone forever, his death declared avoidable, preventable, the result of choices prosecutors say were deliberate. And Riverside is left asking the hardest question of all. If everyone saw the warnings, if the signs were there in plain sight, why wasn't Emmanuel saved? The search for accountability has only begun, the evidence is building, and the full truth about what happened to baby Emmanuel Haro will finally come out, not in whispered rumors or unanswered questions, but in open court, under oath, where no one can look away.